Spags, it's Tuesday, which means it's time for another draft battle doubleheader in the Best Ball Mania 4 streets.
$3 million to first place in Best Ball Mania 4. So Pete and I are there. We are waiting in a draft room, ready to go head to head. And Pete, I know you didn't love the team yesterday. You were giving me some shade, but I built one of my best teams on stream with you yesterday, and I wasn't even on stream with you.
Yeah, that was a crazy draft room. It was a piss boy draft room. Anytime Najee Harris is like plummeting, it's one of my stream drafts or a ship chasing draft. And yes, Bags, you took my video to heart that week 17 is all that matters with that one.
I built some good teams, some value players in Cincinnati, Kansas City, of course. We're going to build some week 17 correlations today. Now that the schedule's out, we're going to stack some teams up. And this is your draft number 19. Is that correct?
Yeah, I need to get the overlay going down here. Looks like you got 105. I got 17 in here. Just trying to get my screen size adjusted, but we're almost ready to go here. Let me just go quickly check. So how many am I at? Yeah, this is my 18th draft. 18.
Okay, 18. So 19 will be coming up. Of course, it's a double header here. One show on Pete's channel. Next show, we'll go right over to the Splash Play channel with a redirect, conveniently set up by Pete on the back end. So we're strapping in for about 2 hours here. 2 hours of drafts. Can't beat that in the middle of May.
Yeah, like I said, I've been, trying to get my fix. The puppy closed. My parents were in town, so I didn't get to do mini puppies. I entered a few slow drafts. I did fire my single entry Dalmatian bullet. Those are slows only. Have you hopped in your 101 Dalmatian entry yet?
So I think I'm going to do it this year. I normally eschew the higher dollar ones because frankly, it's enough for me to fill the 150 and BBM, whatever puppies that come along the way, the DK million, all that stuff. But I may throw it into the Dalmatian. And is it advantage? Like, is it an advantage to do it now? Is it better to wait? I don't know the strategy for that kind of stuff.
I did see that some people were waiting, which I think makes some sense, right? Like you're just trying to get as much information as possible, but I don't think a ton is going to change for the drafting window between now and then. And I think you can make the case that, some of this rookie steam continues and maybe even drafting earlier has its advantage. So in this, what will probably be a 2-week window, I don't think it's really a big deal when you start.
So I'm seeing a lot of badges here. Christian McCaffrey on the board. Cooper Kupp goes ahead of ADP. I'm getting ahead of the Avalanche, Pete. I don't want to get screwed. I'm taking Stephon Diggs at 5.
We started this draft with 5 straight. Does someone want to give me CMC at 7?
Sky Moore at the 112 coming up.
Okay. I don't get CMC there. Yeah, let's see here. We've learned our lesson here in some of these Avalanche rooms. We'll take AJ Brown.
I think that's the move. I will say I did a draft with Dr. One, the professor, the other day, and he sniped a bunch of things that didn't make the most sense. So I'm kind of hyper aware of him being right between us right now.
Okay. Yeah, good. That's good intel there. It's the Spags drafting HUD. He's already picking up on tendencies of the guy sandwiched in between us.
It is crazy because like you do so many drafts. Like I think I got 80 in on the puppy. This will be I think my 21st in BBM4. So like I've done enough now, and no, it doesn't take a lot to stand out. But when you do stand out, like these guys become permanently filed away in your head as like, oh, you're that guy who sniped me on this particular thing 3 months ago, and you just don't forget it.
Yeah, no, you do. I remember that from the old school poker days. Like when you would see handles that you recognized in rooms, and you're like, oh, this guy's a maniac or this guy's super tight. We got to start building out our profiles of drafters here.
See, Brandon's saying he's in my head. I'm just going to pull that chat up. He's in my head. He's not in my head necessarily. I think it's more if you are a savvy drafter, you have to be hyper aware of all these guys and their tendencies. And if you happen to know one, great. But like, it's like being like in baseball where you want to know your pitcher tendencies. You want to know if he's throwing a splitter or not. This guy's throwing curveballs left and right in terms of his draft approach.
Exactly. We do see Go AZ Cards do the double tap that I said is going to be extremely popular. The CD Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, although he does it from 11-14, not the 12-13 there. But this is an Avalanche draft here. We will see how this second round shakes out.
It's funny you mentioned that about being a chalk duo here, CD Lamb and Amon-Ra going at the turn. Of course, those guys are playing in week 17 now. A game that I think will be a little bit overrated just because of how Dallas is going to play and their defense being better and hopefully Detroit's defense being slightly better as well. But I actually took that pairing yesterday, Pete, because I heard you say that and was like, I actually never take it because I don't think CD Lamb is one of my favorite picks there. But it is probably one of the more chalky duos right away just because you get that easy correlation from the jump.
Yeah. Man, this thing really cleared out. And someone took even Hurts. I was maybe going to consider Hurts, but I don't ever really like taking these elite QBs, at least right now. Been taking a decent amount of Olave. You know what? Let's do this. We are going to set up a little Eagle stack without Hurts and see how that goes.
Okay, I like the move. It seems like, well, let's see what Dr. One the Professor does. I'm prepared for him to take Josh Allen here, but we'll find out in a moment. I might take Josh Allen because I have eschewed him a lot. I know some people pointed out in a recent draft that I took, I passed up Josh Allen and was like, don't worry, I'll get Anthony Richardson later. I probably should get some shares of Josh Allen because I do take the other two elite QBs sometimes.
Yeah. Mad Sox says Hurts is going first QB overall on D. Well, yeah, I mean, I personally think Hurts should be the first quarterback. I think it's close between Hurts and Allen. Have we discussed this before? Are you Hurts or Allen at the top?
I think it should be Hurts, but I think you should be mostly following the ADPs at this point in terms of where these guys should be ranked. But I think it's Hurts, Allen, then Mahomes, just because Hurts a little more live as a runner, kind of more strategically. Part of what they want to do is make him run, whereas the Bills have always been about let's make Josh Allen run less. So I think Hurts should be the first QB, but depends where. I don't want to take him. I don't want to reach like crazy for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my stance on the QBs and stuff has been I do want to see. My thought is they are just going to stay here and not budge, basically for all of drafting season. But I do want to just get a little bit of time once we start getting some information about the running backs, these backfields, maybe they start slipping a little bit. But if I'm 80, 90 entries deep and I'm underexposed to elite QBs, I will eventually catch up. I'll probably end up matching the field on these guys. Like I would like to, I don't mind being slightly underweighted. I guess I'd probably in my perfect world be like 5 to 6% on those guys is where I'm kind of ideally thinking about it at.
Yeah, for me, I think I would still like to get to 8% overall, but in 8% it comes where it's like I have the stack already or the quarterback falls. Like I think yesterday Hurts fell to like the mid-20s in a couple drafts I was seeing. So like you definitely can get that value, and I don't mind that. An interesting thing I've been doing lately is also jumping up to get Lamar around this range where if you get Tyreek early, you could take Lamar and Andrews. I feel like that's an interesting way to get an elite QB with some upside. But obviously not going to do that here. Obviously, no Ramondre now, so I won't take him for that week 17 correlation. I will take DK Metcalf, who is steadily my consolation prize in this range.
Sounds good there with DK. Let's see here. What do we got going? Am I going to end up with another Breece Hall or Josh Jacobs share, or do I think with Lamar and Fields on the board, I do have 0 shares of Lamar so far. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Andrews goes. I am going to take Breece Hall here, though. I'm going to keep taking him anytime he kind of slips to the middle or back half of round 3 here. There's actually some quotes that just came out about him from the owner that were pretty positive. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I feel like I see him going in the mid-30s a good amount lately. I kind of feel like he's falling towards the closer to 40 than 30. But maybe not. I guess it kind of depends what news comes out if it does kind of stop the blood flow of people just being concerned and kind of fudding him down.
Yeah, the quotes from, he said, so we're going to have to do a good job of protecting him against himself a little bit. We have very detailed checkpoints for Breece to hit in his rehab, and we're going to follow that to a T. And then Pat Thorman's take was the uncertainty may get spun negatively for fantasy football, but these are positive quotes from a GM. Actually, like, I do like that quote almost more so than the Sean Payton, where it's just like, yeah, we're expecting Javonte Williams to be ready for training camp, where it feels more puffy. We're at least saying, like, we have a plan. We have the checkpoints, the various places that, we're going to expand his workload and his contact and stuff like that. So again, the risk reward proposition here, I still think lines up in a smart way. Najee in the third after we get him 2 rounds later.
Yeah, Najee. So if you get in the right rooms, or I guess the wrong rooms, depending on how you're looking at it, people love Najee in certain rooms. And in other rooms, it'll be like yesterday where you had to take the poison pill, I think, or somebody did like 10 picks after ADP. And I just don't, the Najee prediction is hard to finger.
Yeah, it is. The Najee stuff is all over the map. I would say the non Red Badge Brigade drafters don't know this, but if you're in a draft with, let's say at least 4 or 5 badges, it means you can at least wait until the late 4th round for your Najee shares, and you probably could get him in the early 5th too.
Why is Najee coming up this much? Is it just the perception of him having volume and Pittsburgh being improved? Because I believe in Pittsburgh being improved. I just don't know that he's the guy that's going to help them kind of be where they need to be. Like, it does feel like Jalen Warren's live. It feels like, honestly, they could also sign somebody off the scrap heap and they might be just as good as Najee too. So I just don't see it the same way I think the public does.
No, I don't think there's been a specific news thing that has been pushing his ADP up or down. I mean, there has been the narrative that he was hurt toward the end of last year. They obviously don't add anyone in the draft, so that's giving people some more confidence that he's still and there's been some like positive Kenny Pickett buzz. So I think people are just starting to come around on the Steelers in general. But man, his ADP has one of the widest deltas of anyone going in like the 4th round, right? Like you'll never see Mike Williams go like a round and a half earlier or a round and a half later than his ADP, where Najee is like constantly ping-ponging based on the draft room.
BFFL, by the way, is single-handedly fighting the wide receiver avalanche because he has taken 1 QB and 3 running backs, I believe.
Wow. Yeah, you know what, Spags? I'm gonna use one of my week 7. I'm gonna start to dust off my week 17 correlations, get exposure to a guy I don't draft. DeAndre Hopkins, week 17 versus these Eagles.
Okay. Interesting. Do you think what are the odds he's still playing in week 17 for this Cardinals team, just relative to the trades, relative to their motivations for actually winning?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly risk to it. It's why I haven't selected him yet. But the things that I generally do, and this is why I do really like Week 17 correlation, is it gets me to click on players in smart ways at ADP that I otherwise have blind spots or biases, whether those are justified or not. You know, I say to myself, do I want 0% DeAndre Hopkins this year? Is he a guy I'm willing to full fade? There are some guys I'm willing to full fade. I don't know if Hopkins is one of those. He's probably a 2 to 5% guy for me. So when are the times I'm selecting Hopkins? Either 1, at an extreme ADP value, or 2, highly correlated with a big bet I've made. And I've made a huge bet on the Eagles. If I'm winning $3 million, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown are putting up, 25 plus each. Going to need someone to push them coming back. That certainly could be Hopkins if the Cardinals remain competitive, which I get is a doubt. But I think if I'm going to get my exposure, these are the spots.
Some of these teams like Arizona and Tampa Bay in particular, I've been starting to think more about how do you take them kind of rolling it up at the end of the year and who's going to be there? Because I saw somebody yesterday was saying you should take Trey Palmer, who is the kind of the rookie version of Mike Evans, who the Bucs drafted. And they also signed, what's his face, who I also hated throughout the draft process. Not Chase Brown, the other one, Sean Tucker. Some of those guys, I wonder if maybe you should start to look at them a little bit more rather than take like the Hopkins. You would take Michael Wilson, who's their rookie that they have. Might be galaxy braining it too much, but I just don't think Arizona's motivations are there. And the public markets are so down on them now that I worry a lot about their motivations by the end of the year.
I think, sorry, I just got distracted by something. I was going to say something. Oh, so the one thing I was going to say about what you said is I think that strategy is far more viable the later we get in the season and the more information you have, because going back to our take a drink dead roster spots, like if you're galaxy braining, like some of these fringe rookies who don't have the draft capital to ensure they're going to get on the field right away, you are likely to take a 0 from these guys for a large chunk of the season. But when we get to training camp, if it's like, oh, Sean Tucker or Michael Wilson or whoever is like running with the ones and he's going to have a role, then it gives you the confidence, like, I'm not going to take a 0 from this guy, but you don't have a lot to hang your hat on because they don't have the draft capital. And those guys just traditionally aren't getting a ton of run.
So I also just took my first share of Kenneth Walker, which I'll point out for my Seattle stack. Nice little value there, even though I think that backfield is looking like a hot hand one to me now based on some recent quotes. But who are you going to go with here, Pete?
Yeah, this is kind of a gross spot on the board. Let's see here. You know what? I might just play the ADP game and set up a little backdoor stuff with Justin Herbert, get an elite quarterback here.
Anytime you can set up backdoor stuff with a man as beautiful as Justin Herbert, you've got to.
Spags, I thought we were more mature than that.
I was just giving you a chance to use the bonk because I don't have it on our channel now.
Yeah, why don't you have this? Yeah, so here you go, Spags, making butt jokes about Justin Herbert.
I like that you're derisive about certain types of comedy where you're like, butt jokes are the... But if Nana Pete's here, they could go flying off the shelves after we do them as ourselves.
I do want to pull up this comment. This is the stuff I think we really need to avoid trying to do. And this is why like correlation in the macro sense is valuable, because we do know which two teams are playing each other. That is going to happen no matter what. Duvie says, doesn't Philly just steamroll Arizona? Like us trying to project a game flow this far out just seems insane to me. And it's the same reason why I'm not like, falling over myself to draft specific week 17 matchups, but fade the others. Like we simply do not know. Some of these, like I think I heard Karain and Beimfor talking about this, and they made a really good point about that year that Mark Andrews, 2 years ago, went off down the stretch. And that was largely fueled by their secondary getting ravaged by injuries and just getting in all of these shootouts. That is not how Baltimore intended to play. It is not how anyone envisioned their secondary heading into the season. No one would have assumed the Ravens would have been a pass funnel at that spot. So trying to predict game flow and even spreads this far out, I think is a fool's errand. If you want to look at the weather conditions, whether it's a dome game, whether, any kind of other basic correlation for variables we can control, I think that's all fair play. But I am not in the business of projecting game flow 6 months out.
Yeah, I stacked a lot of Cleveland and Washington last year, which I kind of thought had a similar vibe to it. I would say, too, the game that last year mattered the most, that got Karain there and could have gotten them even more, like was Carolina-Tampa Bay, which nobody would have projected as a shootout before the year. Probably would have thought the same thing about Tampa Bay boat racing them. So I think something to keep in mind that Pete mentioned there for sure.
Let's see here. Man, do I want to just keep slamming Mike Evans here? I guess we're going to keep slamming Mike Evans.
You have so much Mike Evans. I don't get that one, to be honest. I guess, I mean, he falls. I get it, but I don't get it at the same time.
Why? He's one of the best wide receivers in the league, puts up 1,000+ yards every season, has done it with all kinds of different quarterbacks. I don't think he's not a massive win kind of guy, but he's definitely a small miss kind of guy.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I'm on the clock here. I have Allen, Walker, Diggs, Metcalf, Judy. I'm going to get another receiver here in the mix and take George Pickens, who I love anyway, but Seattle, Pittsburgh, week 17 correlation, one of my easiest ones that I probably grab every single draft.
Pickens? Oh, Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. Seattle, Pittsburgh, Pickens in general too. Yeah.
I will say, and I don't think, do I have any Walker shares yet? I don't, which actually surprises me. It just hasn't lined up for how I've done my structures and where I've taken him. But I think Walker in the 5th is a smash. I think it's a total smash. I do agree he should be discounted relative to the Zach Charbonnet pick, but I almost think he slipped too much. He feels like more of a late 4th round value. When you're getting him in the 5th, I think that risk of Charbonnet having a role is almost fully baked in there.
So OX is asking that above. Let me see if I can just grab the chat real fast. What recent quotes? Just saw Pete said Walker's lead guy. So that full quote was him saying that Walker's going to be the first guy off. Then it'll be Charbonnet coming in for either second downs, maybe some third downs. He also said that Kenny McIntosh and DJ Dallas will be fighting for the third down reps. So basically, when you're saying that all these guys are going to have a role and you're kind of going in with that approach, and also, frankly, Charbonnet on paper is a better runner and a better pass catcher than Walker, I think there's a lot of fluidity there. And if they're all going to be involved, it does kind of scream like last year, they would kind of sit Walker for stretches. I think Walker should be closer to the 70 range personally, ADP wise, just because Charbonnet is going at 100. And I think those guys are bets against each other, but if he's falling here, I'm still going to take Walker because I already have a bet on Seattle.
So wait, I actually think that's bad process, Spags. If you think that if you have a 2-round gap on a guy, you shouldn't take him. If you think he's a 7th round guy, why are you taking a guy in the 5th round?
Because I think that's where the markets are going to go, but I don't have necessarily that level of confidence that that's going to be the case. But let me make a pick here. Gabe Davis does not excite me at this point in the game, and I feel like everybody will take Gabe Davis at this point at the discount. So I'm actually going to get a little more Denver week 17 correlation and take Quentin Johnston.
Thanks for sniping my stack, Spags.
Oh, you're welcome. I didn't realize it. I was just in my process.
I'm sure.
I was in the studio. I was in the lab a little bit. But, I get what you're saying with Walker. I just think that, I'm still willing to pay the market's price at a discount. But I think he should be priced in the 70 range because I think he and Charbonnet are closer to a 1-to-1 than the market does.
I just think if you have that strong of a player take and a misprice, then that should just be a pass for you because it's not actually a value. If you think he's still going 2 rounds later, I just can't think of any player I don't like that I would reach 2 rounds ahead to grab. Because in you in general, you're willing to have player stands. You're willing to have big fades. I guess I don't get the logic of taking a guy that you think is mispriced by 2 rounds.
No, I mean, look, I think you're pointing some fair things out about it. To me, it's mostly just that I don't want to have 0 of them because I look, I can be wrong, but I still think that like I would price them at 70. The public is not doing that. I don't know if the public will. So if the public's not going to do that and I still want to get shares, then taking them at a discount is kind of the best middle ground I can reach. But I get it. Like, I do have some player stands, but my player stands in terms of like getting no exposure is Anthony Richardson goes at 80. So I'm now safely not going to have to draft him. I don't want to dig my heels in on young guys who've shown something. Like I want to dig my heels in on not having shares of DeAndre Hopkins, this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very sensitive to guys who, if there are, if I'm ambivalent about them or I think they're fairly priced, but I'm not going out of my way to get them, then I use the ADP discount as my like green flag. Here's when I'm going to go get these guys. But if I just like dislike a guy and he slips 2 rounds and I still think he's mispriced, then you're basically just saying I'm full fading this guy because the market is so wrong on it. Or is your thesis, because the other part of the thesis would be that if the Charbonnet buzz gets so loud that their ADPs start to converge more, at which case you would be getting a better price later in the summer anyways.
Yes, but I could still get a good price though if I take him at when he falls past 50, when he falls, at a certain point to 60. Like I could still kind of, dollar cost it down, I think. And also I'm going to issue a rare thing here on the Splash Play show. I'm going to apologize to Pete because it was not a deliberate snipe. It was just me thinking, yes, Denver, Kansas City. Or Denver Chargers rather. Got to get a taste of that. And I completely forgot that we made the butt stuff joke. And I'm apologizing to you, Pete, for sniping.
Please, no one. I mean, I can get tilted about snipes, but do not. Everyone should read Pat's article about why getting sniped on your stuff is good. Hang on here. I got to make my pick. Let's see what range here. Wow, Madison's really getting steamed up. Let's see. Actually, yeah, let's go. We'll do a little bring back for our Herbert stack in week 17 with Sutton. One thing I was going to say too about this of why you can be post tilt about snipes. One, that Pat laid out the good arguments too, but this actually goes back to the natural diversification thing. If you think about how we all psychologically would like to line up stacks, we all want the premium stack. We all want Josh Allen with Diggs. We all want Burrow with Chase and Higgins. And naturally too, like we all want Herbert with one of, and look, yeah, this part of this will be cope, like not getting one of Herbert's 3 best wide receivers. But if you sometimes look at your exposures and you're like, every single one of my Herbert stacks has Keenan Allen on it. And it's like getting pushed into different avenues. Like ideally, like I wouldn't mind a Herbert Quentin Johnson Everett or a Herbert Johnson Josh Palmer of being like, you don't want to be so hyper concentrated on a segment of a stack, and getting sniped actually pushes you to different variations of that in a way that I think is actually good for your portfolio.
Thank you. I'm glad that you defended me because I felt bad whenever you pointed out in the chat. So my apologies. But that said, Quentin Johnson, I think, is still mispriced. And I know I've kind of beaten the drum earlier in the offseason as well. But boy, like some of the quotes coming out of camp so far, what he's been talking about with like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Josh Palmer showed up to his hotel and were like talking to him about like what to expect and all that stuff. Weird thing with Quentin Johnson, though. Apparently, Justin Herbert has not reached out to him at all. Like hasn't talked to him, followed him on Instagram and didn't reach out.
That stuff's all noise, but it's fun. Trust me, the reason I know it's all noise is because KJ Hamler was going to Bible studies with Russell Wilson there for a while. So, sometimes these teammate narratives work and sometimes they don't.
Perhaps didn't pray hard enough for himself in that process.
Yeah. This is just like a real quick detour question. Barrett says he's in the Dalmatian with me, and he says, do you guys draft differently where 4 teams advance to the playoffs? So for the most part, like the concepts of correlation, I would say I'm willing to over correlate even more. I'm willing to make really big bets on a couple teams, whereas you kind of need to be perfect in these big lottos. The other thing I think you could take your feet off the gas on a bit is if you are just loading up on a ton of rookies or say a ton of injured / suspended players, you do want to prioritize advance rate stuff slightly more, just because the bar to get in there isn't as high. So those are the kind of things I would do. I wouldn't push like super extreme strategies as much in those, but I definitely don't mind leaning into team correlation more so than I would in an 18-round Best Ball Mania draft.
That's fair. I took Juju. Who are you going to take here? Because Juju, for anybody who's curious, taking him for the Week 17 correlation, and also I think Juju's undervalued.
Yeah, I'm going to grab Charbonnet right here at ADP. This is about the spot here. I'm 6 wide receivers deep. About time here to start looking at a second running back, and I love Charbonnet at this price here, just perfectly in the 0 RB window, really strong RB2.
Also, Mad Sox with a question too that I just want to point out, because I had this question earlier in the week. Parham is still on the Chargers. They were going to release him, and they ended up re-signing him to a 2-year deal in March, so he's still there. But Everett more involved. Everett was there at the rookie camp, apparently like being the mayor on the field and talking to everybody in his jeans and whatever was the report that I saw. So yeah, Parham's still there, but Everett clearly is more of a top dog than it seemed when it might be a cap casualty earlier in the spring.
Yeah, and Sean says, looking like a Josh Palmer, Donald Parham lineup. As a guy who selected Jalen Tolbert yesterday, I mean, Josh Palmer, it might as well be the second coming of Jerry Rice compared to him. So
again, Josh Palmer, Pete, was at the meeting. He came with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, so he's part of the welcoming committee, even though he's ostensibly the guy who's going to very quickly lose his job to Quentin Johnston.
You know what? Let me flesh this out as an analogy. Spags, you know how when you have your friend groups and you go out and it's so easy, say it's your high school buddies or your longtime buddies, it's completely effortless. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to go out of your way to ask someone questions. You can just totally be yourself because everyone's comfortable. But if there's a new person in the group or there's a friend of a friend in the group, and it's like, okay, they could be cool and fine, but you got to put some effort in. You got to ask them about themselves. You got to build up a relationship. You can't just be on I'm chilling autopilot mode. Maybe Herbert and co are just like, look, man, the boys just want to chill, and I don't want to have to ask Quentin Johnston a bunch of questions. Sounds like a lot of social effort, and this is my one night off with the boys. We'll get to Quentin Johnston later. We'll get to know him in mini camp, and then we can bring him in the fold. But right now, it's just the vets. I mean, I feel like that theory checks out.
Is Justin Herbert also up for a new deal? Is that a thing that's potentially looming?
I'm not hip on that contract situation.
I think he and I know Burrow is due, because that's part of the reason why Mixon is still looming as a risk point. Yeah, he's got his 50-year tag coming up next year, so they probably would like to get him extended now. So that could be it. Is he might just be like avoiding team stuff until he gets his money.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, but your logic is just as good too, just more fun. But I think they both are equally credible.
No, but like, again, like, you know, the times if you go like on a double date with a new couple, or say it's like your wives are friends and then you're like essentially meeting the guy, and it's just like, it's going to be fine. We're going to have a good time, but I'm going to have to put in a lot of work. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to start talking to you about all this shit. I'm telling you, I think that's what's going on here. All right. We're heavy on the Eagles, ADP. I don't know why we don't stop now. I don't have a share of Rashad Penny yet. Let's go ahead and get him on this squad.
I've been getting a lot of Swift lately because he falls 10 picks past ADP, and I'm not taking him at normal ADPs. But I have so much Penny. Like I got so much Penny before he signed with the Eagles, after he signed with them. Then now I'm like, I'll take him if he's there. But I'm focused on getting Swift just because he is really the biggest lever against Penny.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these backfields, I know it's not doesn't make great contact. It's like, I like both the Seattle backs at ADP. I like both the Broncos backs at ADP. I like both of the Eagles backs at ADP. It's because what's happening is the uncertainty in these perceived split backfields is creating discounts on both, when there's a lot of outcomes where one of them is vaulted way ahead of the other. Sure, are there going to be some classic split backfields where it's like a 50-50, 60-40, and it's kind of frustrating? Absolutely. But a lot of times one of these guys either separates, or the chaos of the season and injuries kicks in, and the other becomes levered up from like a mid-round to like a second-round value. And so I want to be making bets on both sides of those ADP twins as much as possible. And if you want to skew your exposures to the cheaper side of those right now, like, I'm never going to fault anyone from taking the cheaper back in those committees, but like all of those backfields I just rattled off, I see value in all of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's how I had a lot of the best lineups I built last year. Like Ramondre was a guy I dug my heels on just because Harris was going 20, 30 picks earlier at various points. I think that's probably the best bet that people can make that they kind of forget about. One thing I wanted to ask you about, why is Madison coming up so much? Like, are people just learning of Dalvin Cook's contract risk? Because I didn't see anything new about it, but I've been mentally kind of taking Madison a lot. I don't get why he's now like, he'll go in the high 80s sometimes.
Yeah, so I believe there's some stuff going around. I believe, and someone in the chat correct me, but I believe what I saw is the Vikings did some kind of promo thing, and it had Cousins and Hawk and Jefferson and Addison and Madison on it. And I think there was another rumor that internally they said they are going to be releasing him on, was it June 1st? So those were rumors. Nothing has been being substantiated by any of the team or whatever. So I just think it's the market getting very excited of, holy cow, I could be getting the starting running back for the Vikings in like the 9th round. I think that's what's causing it. There you go.
Yeah, I didn't see the promo thing, but okay, so they told him that, because I know there was a thing earlier in the year where they mentioned the other Dalvin who's on their defense. And they're like, yeah, excited to have Dalvin around. They're like, oh, Dalvin Cook? Like, no, other Dalvin, like the No Homers Club on The Simpsons. But I think, Dalvin being a trade candidate. So I'm going to point out a gambit I just made here. I didn't take Dalton Kincaid because I've seen him fall lately. Obviously wanted him bad for this Buffalo stack, but I thought I could push him, and I did. So he is my tight end 1.
Congratulations.
I'm on here. Like, I'm drafting some good teams right now, Pete. I know sometimes we like to have fun here. We like to point out the foibles that we make, of course. But this Buffalo team is coming along nicely.
1 sec. I got to figure out what I'm doing here. Feels like a running back range. Dr. Professor took my guy, Kendre. We'll go ahead and maybe set up another backdoor stack option. We have yet to select a tight end. I like Dalton Schultz at ADP. He also plays my Treylon Burks in week 17. Let's do it.
Dalton Schultz falling a lot lately too, I've seen, and I like him a lot. Both the Daltons in this range, I think, are very solid. And Schultz, to me, I think people are down on CJ Stroud, and I just don't think they should be. Like, I was going back through some of the quarterback numbers from the last few years and looking at guys who also weren't in the draft class. Stroud was like a top every metric about like the last 5 years worth of quarterbacks. And I know people don't like Houston, but like, he's going to be better than people realize.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem. And I know the people are just down on this tier of tight ends, which I get too, right? Because in my perfect world, the thing I get tripped up on, and I've said this before, obviously I prefer elite tight end. I do not like 3 tight end builds. I just really do not like how you allocate it. Like, if I have 0% exposure to one structural strategy, and I probably won't end up with 0 just necessarily, but it would be 3 tight ends. That would be the structural strategy. I'd be completely fine full fading. So I get in these spots, right, where I don't get an elite tight end. And then I start to ask myself, what are the combos where I feel comfortable with 2 tight ends? And honestly, as nice as your team was yesterday, like the Irv Smith, Dalton Kincaid pairing, like that's getting very, very close to probably needing to be a 3 tight end build. So with a guy like Dalton Schultz, I do feel like he starts to give me more of a green light to a 2 tight end build, where if I'm starting to get into the 15th, 16th round range, then I'm like, shit, I probably am forced into a structure I don't like in 3 tight ends.
Yeah, no, I'm a little more comfortable with the 3 tight end builds. And I was actually thinking about doing it on that team I built yesterday on Pete's second stream. I like the 3 tight end builds a little bit more. I know Hayden's been a proponent of them, which certainly, a guy that I would say you could trust when it comes to the data analysis of all that. But also it just comes down to the capital, where elite tight end I liked for some teams last year, but overall I feel like it could have gone a little bit different. And you're taking Russ, you're hopping on the Russ bus.
Russ Wilson stacked with Cortland Sutton, and we got our Chargers Denver game here, and lots of backdoor stack options for Russ too, which is nice.
All right, I am on the clock here. Boy. I think I just got to take a running back. I only have 3 so far, so I'm going to take Jerick McKinnon to add to Walker, Cook, and A-Chain. It's either that or reaching for Algier, which would have gotten me laughed out of the room, so we can save that for the next round.
I struggle with McKinnon, not just him completely in a vacuum, but the combination of, I've had a hard time separating like how he looked at the end of the season. Cause last year, like in all the playoff drafts and everything, like I was so excited to load up on McKinnon. I thought it was going to be like the Leonard Fournette thing all over again, where he crushes in the previous season. And then everyone like discounts it because he's like an older back. And then he just does it again. And everything lines up for McKinnon to be the pass catching back there. And then he really just fizzled out in the playoffs. And you know how we were even wondering like, what is going on with his targets? I even remember when we were in the weeds for DFS stuff, and it was like his targets have just fallen off the map. They're doing the check downs to Isaiah Pacheco. So I do have like a little pause on his elevated ADP, but it's also kind of like other contest sticker shock, right? Where Jerick McKinnon was free before he re-signed with the Chiefs. It's not a big deal in Best Ball Mania because that happened after. But yeah, McKinnon's a guy I struggle with.
No, I get it. I like Pacheco a little bit more for that reason, because I kind of assumed they're going to give Pacheco more of the work in year 2, because he actually was pretty good last year on the passing downs, and that's part of why I think he did earn some more of that work in the playoffs. The issue to me with McKinnon is just like he's on the roster. They brought him back. I think they thought they were going to draft a running back, but none of them aligned with the pockets they wanted to. So instead, they were like, all right, we got McKinnon here. Nobody else is going to sign him. We'll bring him back in. So I think he's kind of like their James White, where he'll keep being there, but at a certain point, the wheels are going to fall off.
Look at this. Got to go get your guys. Well, considering this, I'll show you how I'll live without Marvin Mims in this draft. I've taken him in every other draft so far, 53.8%. So, and I actually haven't even updated my exposure, I don't think, from yesterday. So yes, I can survive no Marvin Mims.
And I am taking Jalen Warren over Tyler Algier, which is actually a move I make a lot for people who are tracking my Algier exposure at home. Nothing wrong with Algier at this ADP, but Jalen Warren, I think, should be in the 140s at this point.
I'm going to go ahead and grab Greg Dulcich to lock in my Russ Wilson double stack here. That should be fine.
People really like Mims. Like, there is still a leap that Mims has to make to be on the field regularly, I think would be one thing to file away if you are overly enthusiastic about Mims. And I say that about as somebody who pointed him out earlier on in the draft process that I liked him a lot. I think the steam has gotten to be a little heavy on Mims compared to even some of the other rookies.
Well, I mean, again, talk about a range. I mean, what is his age? This guy took him at 136. His ADP is 171. Most of my exposure is in like the 160 to 180 range. And there's a big difference between 135 Mims and 180 Mims. I think there's almost like zero downside in the 170, 180s. There starts to be an opportunity cost at 136.
Yeah, I agree. It's a big reach, and just in general, not great practice to take a guy 40 picks of ADP, even if you do love him. Maybe that was a Q timeout or something, but just for the new drafters out there, you definitely don't want to reach 40 picks for your guys, and unless they're Anthony Richardson, then have at it, have fun. What am I going to do next? I still need a QB and a tight end, which I'm not sure I'm going to accomplish that.
This is a spicy take. Mims will leap Sutton for sure. I think they're different types of players and how they'll be used, but that's a spicy take.
Mims is good outside, which is the one thing that jumped out to me because, this was a draft class where there weren't a lot of great guys outside. And he was like a positive EPA guy at every level, all that stuff that I look at in the advanced analytics. That said, he is under 6 feet tall and Cortland Sutton's like 6'2", I think. So bit of a size difference there, maybe different kind of boundary receivers, but they do play a similar role theoretically on the field.
Let's see here. We got a few running backs past ADP. Let's see. I think we'll just we'll build out our Houston bet since we do have that Houston Tennessee thing going with Burks and Dulcich. We'll add Devin Singletary to the squad here as our 4th running back.
I love Singletary. I think he's a good value at this range. And Tank Bigsby also jumping up a little bit. It's kind of interesting because he had some really good camp reports, caught like 3 touchdowns in their rookie camp, I think. All right, who am I going to take here? I guess I'm just going to take Tyler Algier, and I'll figure out tight end and QB later.
You taking Tyler Algier? Who would have seen that coming?
Well, he's now 14 picks past ADP. Who could avoid that value? And again, perfect 0 RB running back. Like, he's a large reason my 0 RB teams made it last year.
I told you this would happen though, Spags. I think if someone rolled back the clip, did you say he was a 10th, 11th round value on one of our shows? And
I think I had pinned him at 150 and he landed at 150. He's got to go lower than 150, but
the irony is The irony is I said my benchmark for Tyler Algier was he should be right in the Jalen Warren range,
Yeah.
which you went back to back, Jalen Warren and Tyler Algier.
So maybe you planted that seed in my brain and now I'm getting to act it out. But honestly, I like both guys as like zero RB builds. Like I think for my running backs where I have Walker, Cook, A-Chain, McKinnon, Warren, Algier, that's a pretty good zero RB room for me. I would swap McKinnon for Roshan if I could. Kendre Miller, I would also swap for, but I think it's a good range. Like if you are going to hit the gas pedal on running backs, I like all those guys.
Also, just a little bit of housekeeping here. So for those of you tuning in on the channel, we do a doubleheader now on Tuesday, Splash Play doubleheader. We do one draft on my channel. Immediately following this, Spags and I will be firing up a stream on the Splash Play channel. If you stay at this spot, I have the auto redirect, so it should just refresh on your screen. If not, there is the link down below in the show notes to head over to the Splash Play channel. Make sure you're subscribed to both of those. And as always, if you need another reminder, I do have the comment giveaway challenge going on. This applies to any of my stream drafts of Best Ball Mania entries. The second the show is over on both this episode and the Splash Play episode, you leave a comment. It gets you an entry into the $1,500 giveaway that I'm going to do when I hit 15K subs. We're on an awesome pace. Picked up another like 40 or 50 subs yesterday. So if we just keep this clip going, we will be doing that giveaway by I could even see like early July if we keep up this pace. So excited about that. Subscribe to Splash Play, which is also very close to a milestone of 2K subs. Get subbed up, get in the giveaway streets, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, just 30 subs away on the Splash Play channel. So if you're not subscribed over there, do that. Of course, I'm doing the Friday solo streams where I'm stacking random teams here. Got the Chiefs for my first draw on that Friday. I'll be doing it again this Friday at 11 a.m. So Splash Play Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. That'll be the place to go for all that stuff. And Pete gets Rondale Moore playing the hits here down the home stretch.
Yeah, I've actually, wait, what did it show my more exposure at?
I don't know. I feel like historical hits more so. Maybe
historical hits. Yeah, this was my first Rondale Moore share. Again, I'm so heavy on this Eagles Cardinals game, obviously with Devonta, AJ Brown, Nuke, Rashad Penny, and now I tack on Rondale Moore here as well. So when Spags' theory that DeAndre Hopkins I think you said he was just going to have a funeral. He was just going to kind of like sink into the ground because of his old age. Then Rondale Moore, I think, will be on the field more.
I think I'll actually turn to dust or perhaps salt. Depends on the different tail you want to go to.
Exactly.
But people asking about Kyler too. I think Kyler should fall. Like I think Kenny Pickett's too low. Kyler's too high. I think that's two things I'm willing to plant a flag for right now.
Yeah. Justin saying, where is the episode with Mike Shoop? Those are for YouTube members. If you are a YouTube member on the channel, you get access to all of the Best Ball After Dark streams. Those are streams I do for the people who kindly support the channel, like Elon and Tyler. You can see the badges there. And it also gets you access to a private Discord channel, depending on which level you are. We have the Best Ball Breakfast where I like to tip off when I'm hopping in my Best Ball Mania entries. So yeah, truly a good value there. If you become a value hound, $6.99 a month, you're getting 3 to 4 extra shows, private Discord channel, badges, emojis, all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's where you guys can get those. And I've been getting a lot of good feedback. Maybe we'll get Spags on and do a behind the curtain, a less antagonistic Pete and Spags stream on Best Ball After Dark one of these days.
Yeah, if you're getting me late at night, Pete, you don't know what's going to be in my body at that point of the day. It'll be flowing around because got to re-up this weekend, feeling green once again. Finally,
do you know what I'm going to tell you, Spags? If Kyler Murray falls to me here, I'm going to take him for a weird 3-quarterback build, but double stacked with Rondale. Yeah, I'm going to do it. I got in this spot a few weeks ago when I had a huge faller in Kenny Pickett, and I tacked him on to a Jalen Hurts team, which didn't feel right. This feels a little bit more justified with, not spending a top 5 round pick or a top 4 round pick on a QB. I do feel like if you are going to do the 3 QB stuff where you don't like need the points, necessarily, taking a super high upside swing on Kyler Murray, a guy we know if he's fully healthy can be a top 5, top 6 quarterback. And I've already just made such a big bet on the Cardinals that I'm going to go ahead and tack Kyler onto it.
Let's see how many. Okay, so you have 2 tight ends. You're not taking a third. So Gerald Everett's available to anybody. So all the homies can have a little bit of Gerald Everett, and I'm adding him onto mine.
You don't have to. I've passed on Gerald Everett 3 times because, as you know, I would much rather get a third quarterback stack in than a third tight end.
And I'm with you on that too. Like the third quarterback being a value guy, I think is starting to make sense to me. Where if I have like Devontae Adams and for whatever reason nobody's drafting Raiders in that draft, like I'll take Jimmy G for free at the end of a draft too. So I don't mind that either. I think if you are going to do a 3 QB build, unless you really want to get weird and draft them all late, I think doing 3 QBs where you get 2 that are in normal range and then your third one just happens to be a massive value that wouldn't normally be there.
And I will say, like, this dynamic sometimes plays out. It's the perfect storm, right? Because I kind of cornered the market on Cardinals wide receivers. Obviously, I didn't have Marquise Brown. I don't. We could go look and see what the Marquise Brown drafter did or why he didn't want them. But I had 2 of the 3 Cardinals wide receivers. So you corner the market on it. Then you have a player that people are worried about, and you can really get the ADP to fall. Obviously, in a perfect world, maybe I had a pick I liked better than Russell Wilson at the time, and then I'm kicking the can down the road for my QB2, and then I just have a Herbert-Kyler pairing, but I have Kyler at just this extreme discount. In a perfect world, that's how the structure would have planned out, but I'm just not going to pass on a guy who has top 5 upside that I've already double stacked, have correlated with week 17, and I do have some kind of flexibility with my structure. Like, I'm not super behind the 8 ball at any position. So I think I had a luxury pick, and that value pushed me to spending it on a quarterback.
It looks like the Marquise Brown guy took him at 61, but has Lamar and Goff. So he must have really felt like he didn't need a third QB.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bullock. There you go. Just for you.
That was a pretty big value that you scooped there on Kyler. I'm not a believer, but I think at that price point, it's sort of hard to argue anyway. Wandale falling here doesn't really do much for me in terms of my guys, but I'm going to take Wandale here just because this is a nice little discount. Is he 30 picks after ADP? Jesus.
That was a huge. I'm going to continue to break all the rules. Although this one I actually think falls into the category of, Penny and Gainwell are 2 totally different backs and how they're used. But again, we now have, I kind of like how this team is shaken out in that I have 4 big stacks and they're all week 17. So I have Chargers versus Denver, and I have Eagles versus Cardinals. And I am trying to get these teams to week 17 and then hoping one of those games goes nuclear.
Yeah, if only you could just wake up in week 17, Pete, as some have critiqued in the past.
Well, I am far less, being spread out on 4 teams is a lot different than being fully concentrated on 2. What did you end up with third? You had the Bills?
Yeah, I had Bills, New England too. So I think that team as well. But if you want to check the team I'm talking about, you can check the most recent tweet I have on my @ChrisSpags on Twitter. It was also on Pete's stream yesterday, the second of his streams as well on Best Ball Breakfast. If you want to see it happen live, and it was great, Pete, getting the rewards in the chat. Everybody pointing it out, what a great team it is. Because lately, Pete, I'm starting to see the casuals filter in where they're like, "Wow, you drafted 4 running backs early. What a sick team!" And I'm like, "Oh no, we're now in that point of draft season."
I do think like the casual window is getting inched up just because more people are playing earlier than ever.
Yeah, one of the guys who's like we all have these people. If you're a streamer, you kind of have these people in your communities where a guy who like always has the chalkiest takes possible replied to my 0RB team like, "Yeah, a little weak at running back and tight end, but the wide receivers." Like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're doing a Denny Carter bit, not even realizing it.
So I did get my Josh Palmer, who, you know what, Spags, because I'm never in the market to select Josh Palmer, except in instances like this, I just kind of thought that Josh Palmer was like a 15th, 16th round pick. I'm pleasantly surprised to know that I was able to wait until the last round to get Joshua Palmer here.
All right, I'm going to dig for a deep cut here because I'm still not a full Ramondre convert. Pierre Strong will be my 7th running back here, so I can increase my New England Buffalo bet. And a lot of Ramondre love on Twitter. I know Sam Sherman's been stumping for him a lot with ironic Twitter threads lately. I still think somebody earns a role alongside Ramondre in that backfield, if not multiple guys.
I mean, that I feel is a lock. Like, as much as we like Ramondre, the thing is both things can be right. Like Ramondre can be a smash at 3rd round, and they can give another guy like 7 to 10 touches a game. And that guy can have a little bit of standalone value and then massive contingent upside, right? Like if Ramondre gets hurt, and trust me, I'm never going to say anything bad about Pierre Strong. He's my favorite late round dart. Although I think I got bored in that I took him so much in the big board contest that I haven't been taking him yet in Best Ball Mania, but I will get there for sure.
Yeah, I've been in that same boat, but There we go. There's a team. Let me make sure. Yeah, team
We
number
need to
8,
recap because I will admit I do a good job when I'm doing my solo streams, but I think because we go back and forth, we don't take time to recap our teams along the way. So we should do that here for the audio listeners.
But do you want to read yours first?
Yes. So I ended up with a very weird team in which, and I keep saying weird because the drafts on stream always go different, but in fun ways. So I have 3 quarterbacks: Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. Our running backs: Breece Hall, Zach Charbonnet, Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary, Kenneth Gainwell. Wide receivers: AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Traylon Burks, Cortland Sutton, Rondell Moore, Joshua Palmer. Tight ends: Dalton Schultz, Greg Dulcich. Tons of week 17 correlation here. Have basically 2 different game stacks that feature both teams. So 4 teams, and then a 5th game stack with Tennessee and Houston here. What about you, Spags?
My team at QB: Josh Allen, Kenny Pickett, the elite QB, the value QB paired with them. Running back: Kenneth Walker at a discount, James Cook, Devin Achane, Jerick McKinnon, Jalen Warren, Tyler Algier, and Pierre Strong at the end. A receiver: Diggs, Metcalf, Judy, Pickens, Quentin Johnston, Juju Smith-Schuster, and then Wan'Dale Robinson at the end. And then a tight end: Dalton Kincaid, Gerald Everett. So chat, who won this one, I guess, will be the question, because I think we built very different teams. We both have correlations, some overlapping correlations as well. So I'm curious to hear who did better, because I like both of our teams. I think we did a good job.
Yesterday on my stream, I had a bunch of stacks, but not a lot of week 17 one. This is probably the draft I've gotten to do the most week 17 correlations in so far. So that feels good. I will get this one titled Draft 18 here, a 3-5-8-2 build with LAC, Denver, and Arizona. Fits like a glove. Real quick, so you guys are where the fuck can you sign up, Pete? Here, I'll just show you guys real easily here. When you're on the YouTube page, so I'm on my homepage for my YouTube right now. See this join button right here? If you hit join, you can see the tiers.
Going to join us.
We
have Nathan, aka
join,
FF Doom.
and then that gets you settled on the YouTube side. You'll have your badge and all that, access to the streams. These are all the member only streams you'll get access to. But for the Discord element, you have to sync your YouTube and Discord account. So you get in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, where we do have a Splash Play channel. You can keep the conversation going after the show in the Splash Play channel. And if you go in the FAQ, there's instructions on, it's really easy to sync and basically buy your YouTube membership. It will tether it to your Discord and unlock the channels that you've signed up for. So that is the membership tutorial. Spags, who won this draft?
It seems like I got a few more votes. There's a couple people saying there's a draw as well, but I think this is one that it does seem like I won by the barest of margins. And LMAO also doing well too.
Yeah, this one, I would have been surprised if I won the popular vote on this one, just because I didn't get any good stacks with Herbert. I did 3 QBs when I probably could have gotten away with 2. I didn't get any of like the super sexy stacks lined up. So I don't think I'm going to win the sexiness here.
If you'd gotten Hurts, I think it'd be closer. I feel like if you have an elite QB, I think you tend to win the vote a little bit more, is my personal sentiment.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm happy to lose the popular vote. All I need is that 3 million under the table. Actually, that reminds me, Spags, because I'm curious about your answer to this one. Did you happen to hear the hypothetical that I asked Davis Maddock on the Swolecast about how winnings would be distributed, or whether you'd rather have the clout? Did you hear that hypothetical?
No, I did not. What was the question?
Okay, I'll ask it to you. Would you rather win $750,000 but you finish like in this hypothetical, you finish like 4th place in some tournament, best ball tournament. So you're not getting any first place copy. You get you get $1 million. You get $1 million and you finish 4th. Or would you rather win $750,000 but finish 1st in a major best ball contest?
Oh, I would take more money.
Okay.
I don't like the clout's nice and whatever. And like, obviously Pat's doing a good job showing like what you can do if you approach it with like a business mind and all that. That said, like the money is the thing, because that funds the business, that funds your lifestyle and whatever. So I would pass up on the clout for that. I'd rather be, like, it's like lottery winners. Like if you're a lottery winner, everybody wants a piece. Whereas if you're a person that wins $1 million, nobody's bothering you.
Well, I actually thought so. I mean, you obviously gave the correct answer. I mean, but Davis is like convinced that the clout that would come and what he would be able to do from like running out the Crane playbook of like a premium site and all of this, he thinks he could make up that ground $250,000 is a lot of ground to make up based on clout. I think you just take the bird in the hand money and do that anyways. And you could still, I mean, Liam calls himself a 3-time Best Ball Mania champ and he only won it once. I mean, you can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, I don't think that now winning one of these tournaments is like the runway to success, like winning the big DFS tournaments used to be. And, we're seeing with some of the sites that have launched in the last a week or so that sometimes there's people that don't have a history of like winning that are behind, doing data for it and whatever. So yeah, I tend to think I would take more money always, and then you could still do the same shit you want to do anyway.
Yeah. But it is funny to see how broken some brains are for the clout chasing that would come with getting first place. But I think the other part is Crane has a runway to doing it, but it's also a lot of work what he did. And I just got the update on his rankings constantly, and as you know too, constantly staying up to date on rankings or projections. It is, talk about a crazy test. Like even my buddy Pat Thorman, who I referenced earlier, who does the rankings in season for ETR. Like I remember inviting him to a poker night one night and he was like, oh yeah, I got like my shift covered, like in case there's any Friday night news and the projections need to get updated. Because when people subscribe to a site, they assume that those are going to be updated whenever they check them. So yeah, shout out to all the projections and rankers out there. You guys are doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, the Spags rankings are due for an update any day now, but there's only a handful of people that sign up for that. So, but yeah, I agree. Like, I think people don't realize that. Also, Pat did all the work before. Like, he was out there grinding at ETR, grinding at Roto World, or NBC Sports Edge turned into Roto World. So he had a lot different runway than just winning a tournament and being out there. Not that Davis doesn't have that same thing too, but yeah, fuck the clout. Give me more money every single time.
Easy game for sure. All right. This is what's going to happen. This stream is going to end. We are going to head over to Splash Play. We are going to immediately start another Best Ball Mania draft. Same 2 hosts, same background, same everything, just a different channel. Come battle with us for part 2. So for Chris, I'm Pete. Don't forget to leave a comment to this one. Head over to the Splash Play channel. We'll see you guys in a few seconds. Peace.